Yep.
So the current president decided to delay his international travel. There was some talk maybe Kamala Harris should not be going on the late nights doing these podcasts in the middle of the storm. But this is what she was doing last night with Stephen Colbert.
So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. This was... Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked for Miller High Life. I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Okay, so cheers. There
cheers.
You go. There you go.
You know, the optics of that, of course, if your name is Colbert, maybe you're going to have a cold beer with the vice president. But nonetheless, people are looking in going, really? This was all part of her charm offensive yesterday, where she was on a bunch of different shows. There were no challenging questions. And obviously, the hosts were doing their best to try to make her seem as presidential as possible. It's interesting. She said, the last time I had a beer was at a ball game. Didn't say exactly when.
So right now, if you look at Joe Biden's record, you look at the disaster in Afghanistan, his numbers never recovered. Inflation at 9% after doing the Rescue Plan, Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure deal. All that spending led to the problem we're seeing now when it comes to prices on everything and inflation, which has gone down at the rate it's increasing, but has not really gone down from where it was 4 years ago. So you would think the vice president, who still hasn't fully explained why the president's not running, he didn't come out and say, I'm too old, I'm losing my mind. We just thought that, and we conclude that. She said he was 100%. So when it comes to policy changes, what would she say is going to be the difference if she gets the job, and what would she have done different if she had the job? Listen.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of...
Yes.
But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
Now, there are 27 days to go.
That's the best you got?
Nothing comes to mind. What about I would have changed the botched Afghanistan withdrawal when 13 U.S. service members
But she was the
died?
last one in the room.
Oh, that's right. She supported it. What about the border crisis when 1.8 million plus known gotaways, not to mention those on the terror watch list, the hundreds on the terror watch list, the quadruple numbers over Donald Trump's when they were in office under Biden and Harris. Inflation, 19.7% increase overall prices. That's why when you look at her drinking a beer with Stephen Colbert and you see all of the destruction in North Carolina, destruction in Florida, another hurricane about to hit and blast out all these people's lives and houses and pictures and belongings, and you see her drinking a beer and inflation's up and we can't afford groceries and you can't afford college, but we're paying for college for everyone else who took a loan out, or we're paying for illegal immigrants to have free health care and food and go to school in our country, and then she drinks a beer and says she wouldn't have changed anything over the last 4 years.
It was a twofer, Ainsley, because not only did she say she wouldn't have changed anything, she followed it up by saying she's been a part of every major decision. And so if you're comfortable with the last 4 years, 3.5 years of this presidency and this administration, then Kamala Harris is your person.
Right.
If you're upset with what's going on and you don't like the direction of the country, there's another option for you.
Well, and that's why it seems like it is a tone-deaf or bad answer. Like, I've hitched my wagon to Joe Biden, and I'm going to be exactly like him. I'm going to be Biden 2.0. But because what defies logic is just the fact that Americans are deeply unhappy with the current state of the economy. That we yesterday quoted that New York Times brand new poll. 75% of you watching right now, Americans, say the economy is either fair or poor. That's a poor reflection on Joe Biden. About 3/4 say they have cut back on groceries because you can't afford it. All right, if you're cutting back on groceries now, you want 4 more years, 8 more years of cutting back on groceries. That's why it just seems like she should have had a different answer. She did her best to try to spin it, making a little joke about, well, I'm not Joe Biden, I'm not Donald Trump. But when people think about it, it's like, is that what I really want?
Here's what Tim Murtaugh said with the Trump campaign. He says it's insane she wasn't ready to crush this question in the first place. Weeks ago, it was supposed to be her central argument. Turn the page, right? She's different. No leadership, new leadership. And she didn't know the answer as to how or why she's different twice. The other subplot is it looks like the Biden camp, I heard about this about 2 weeks ago, that the Biden camp is upset that when she's giving her speeches, she doesn't talk about all they accomplished. Everything I mentioned, the infrastructure deal, Inflation Reduction Act.
More.
Yeah, and he goes, why doesn't she mention it? So he's getting a little ticked off. Then he's not asked to go out on the campaign trail. He's getting a little ticked off. Then calls a press conference while she's on the stump.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's what time she says there's no air between us.
And
she was
contradicts what she was saying about Ron DeSantis. So she's, in the moment of her interview, she's going after Ron DeSantis, saying that, he's being childish, selfish, and then Joe Biden is on record saying, oh, the relationship is fine. I gave him my personal cell phone number.
He couldn't answer the question why he wasn't running on The View.
That's right.
When The View asked him, he goes, well, it was time, because he doesn't know. He's upset that
he was pressured. He still wants to run.
He got stabbed in the back by Nancy Pelosi.
But he has been sidelined, and who's to the rescue? Tomorrow, Barack Obama is going to be appearing in Pittsburgh on behalf of Kamala Harris.
Bob Woodward, in his book, says that Biden blames Obama for the collapse of Afghanistan, Ukraine. He said that he underestimated Putin, he told him different, and he invaded, did nothing, and that's why he had the problem. Good luck with that, guys. Next time you have that reunion, it should be fun.
Well, remember when Obama would speak, we were like, wow, he is impressive. He's a great orator. He ended up, like him or not, he was really good as a politician.
He's great.
But Kamala, I watched all those interviews yesterday.
Well, that's the problem.
I was not impressed.
That's the problem, Ainsley. The mentee, because Barack Obama, as Brian has noted correctly, is the mentor. The gene wasn't passed on. She's terrible at it. Even Michelle Obama knows how to get a crowd. She's one of the most popular people in politics. Kamala Harris just doesn't have that vibe.
Well, they're not the same kind of orator, but the big question is whether or not the endorsement, putting the full weight of the Obamas behind her, is that going to drag her over the finish line? They would like to say.
It dragged Joe Biden over the finish line. He could barely talk, didn't even have a fist bump during the pandemic.
This is true.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Tone deaf. Tone deaf. Defy. Defy. Tick off. Tick off. Sideline. Sideline. Orator. Orator. His tone-deaf comments during the meeting showed that he was unaware of the team's frustrations. He defies authority. His constant complaining began to tick off his colleagues. Injuries can sideline even the most talented athletes from competing. The renowned orator captivated the audience with his powerful speech.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.